Hello everyone and welcome back to my opinion. And in this preview video, we'll be looking at the side that ever since their change of name in 2019, they've seen a change in fortune as to how far they've managed to compete in every IPL season since then, that side being the Delhi Capitals. As I said in my LSG preview video, I thought them and Delhi performed the best in last year's mega auction. And despite the fact that I thought Delhi won completely convincing in the previous season despite showing some good things, they still got to a stage where had they beat the Mumbai Indians in their last league game, then they would have qualified for the playoffs. They lost more games than I thought they would lose the previous season, and all in all, they had their destiny in their hands in that last game and couldn't get the job done on the day. They'll be feeling the absence of Rishabh Pant from the playing 11. An incredibly talented Indian batsman has been playing for India for some years now. And after the accident that took place, the important thing is that he is walking. And it's good from Ricky Ponting that he said he wanted Rishabh Pant to be part of the squad even if he wasn't playing. And on what he's done in the IPL, I think in the previous season he got around that 350 run mark, averaged 31, struck at 140 odd. And I think the general notion in the last few years is that in terms of his T20 performance and his IPL performance, especially T20I performance, he hasn't really done too much. And I would agree with that in T20Is. But I think in the IPL, while it seems like he hasn't done too much, if you're looking at his impact that he's got per season, he's got around that 350 run mark, for example, the previous season, but averaging 30 and striking at 147, I still think that you have done a good job there, even if it's not kind of a mind-blowing contribution in terms of aggregate runs. And I think if you're looking at the mode that he fits into as a T20 batsman, I think in 2018 or 2019, you saw him play some brilliant innings at number 5, and India have at times recently tried to play him at that 5-6 role and found that it hasn't worked. And I think now the best position for him to bat in T20s is in the top 3. He hasn't become a worse player. I think he's only become a better player, but I think he has specialized in that. It seems as if he could specialize in that top 3 role. I don't think he is a finisher. And you saw when India played against England in the semi-final of the T20 World Cup, they took Dinesh Karthik out of the side and played Rishabh Pant, and things didn't go exactly that great. So I think that if he was available to play in this season, I would have batted him at number 3, as you would have seen in my mini auction review videos. Unfortunately for Delhi, he cannot play this season, but like I said, the important thing is that he is walking. And I think they've got a very able player in Yash Dul. We saw him in the Under-19 World Cup, and he's been in some decent form. And I think that he can take up the mantle at number 3. They've got the captain in David Warner, the captain now that Rishabh Pant is unavailable for this season. And I think he's the right choice to be made captain. We saw what he did for SRH in 2016, where he led them to the title. And as far as his IPL form is concerned, he'll always have great IPL seasons in my view. His international form has been a bit indifferent, and especially in tests, I think he said he'll be retiring within a year. So I think his international form hasn't been too great. The consistency has reduced considerably. But I think as an IPL player, I expect him to have another 400 plus run season this year. He scored 427 runs last year with 550s and formed, I think, the most intimidating opening partnership alongside Prithvi Shaw. And it wasn't only intimidating, but I thought more often than not, they got those quick starts for their side and they really gave a very good impact at the top of the order. And at times you've got someone like a David Warner getting 5 half centuries in that season. And I think he didn't play all the games in that season and he still got to 427 runs. So I once again do expect a great contribution from him at the top of the order alongside Prithvi Shaw. They've signed Phil Salt, who's played a lot of T20 cricket, 118 matches and over 4,000 runs. At first, he wasn't really doing too much, and I think there was a series between England and the West Indies, well, I think 1.5 years ago now, where I saw him play for the national side. He's a versatile player who can bat anywhere in the top 5 and can even bat at 6, I think, but he's better in the top 5 in my view. we saw in the SA20 where him and Will Jacks provided that impetus at the top for the Pretoria Capitals. And 28 50s and 180 games, a brilliant, versatile player, can keep wickets as well. And I've got him batting at number 5 in this side, and I'll get to the 11s in a bit. And on the bowling front, an Akshay Patel, who didn't have his most prolific wicket-taking season the previous time. I think only 6 wickets in the entire season last year. But his batting has gone to a new level, especially when playing at home. And I think he will be a vital player for them at number 7. And of course, with his bowling, I expect him to have a better wicket-taking season this year than he did have previously. But the economy rate always will be good. He's a fantastic player. I've said since 2014 that he should have been included in the Indian T20 side. And he's got his opportunity recently. And in every format of the game, you back him as a batsman and as a bowler. So a fantastic addition to the IPL and to the Indian squad as well. And I'm sure he'll have a great season to back up his current form. And Anrik Nokia in the West Indies, or one of the test matches against the West Indies, was ruled out due to injury, I think after the first game. And I've put an asterisk next to his name on the squad sheet because he may be available, but we saw last season where he missed India's tour of South Africa, and it took a long time for him to recover from his injury. He missed half of the season in the last season, and when he did return, he was very rusty, and I think he was left out in a few games. So it depends how long he takes to recover from this injury. If he does recover in time for this competition, which does start tomorrow, I think he really adds that bite in the seam bowling department to this side. And you've got some very good Indian seamers like Khalil Ahmed and Chetan Sakaria to go with that. So I think Anrik Nokia's fitness is key, and I hope for the Delhi Capitals that he is fit. And the Kuldeep Yadav of the previous season and what he's been doing since then, it's been a brilliant return to form. I think 21 wickets in 14 games, and he was fantastic the previous year, and has now gone back to being the first choice wrist spinner in ODIs for India. So I'm expecting him to have another great season here. And that bowling attack, based on what the bowlers did in the previous season and the form I think they'll be going into in this season, you've got Anrik Nokia, hopefully if he recovers in time for the Delhi Capitals to play. And you've got Kuldeep Yadav with the form that he's been showing for India and the Capitals in the previous season. I think that the bowling does look good. And I thought Khalil Ahmed went so well the previous season that he kept Chetan Sakaria out of the side. I think 16 wickets or so in 14 games, if I'm just checking for Khalil Ahmed. In 10 games, actually. And I thought it was a statement season from him. For SRH, he blew hot and cold, but I still thought he had potential. And the kind of season that he had last season was a pleasant surprise. And he kept a bowler in Chetan Sakaria who has toured with the national side with Sri Lanka, I think 1.5 years ago, or maybe 2 years ago now, with a second string side. So I think both of those two will be able to play this time alongside Anrik Nokia, hopefully. And with Kuldeep Yadav and Akshay Patel also playing, that's for 5 solid bowlers there. And in terms of the 6th bowler, something that, of course, you've got the impact substitution as well, and they've got some other able bowlers with them. So I think the bowling side is looking good, but of course, there are a few precarious points which I would be discussing in a later point. They've got Rodman Powell available for this season. And ever since that century against England in the 5-match series, I think 2 years ago now, he's looked a different player to what he looked before that series. And I remember in CPL 2020, the tournament that I posted my first video on this channel about, I reviewed that season. He scored, I think, 85 runs in 6 or 8 games when he was captaining the Jamaica Talawars. He'd been around for a few years before that, and you kind of thought, with no disrespect to the player, you kind of thought, where was his career going? And ever since the century against England a couple of years ago now, he's looked a completely different player to the player that I saw play in that CPL season. And he's been in good form wherever he's gone. And I think this year he'll be vital to this Capitals batting lineup. And I've got him batting at 6 in this side. And like I said in my auction review, I would have preferred them to have got an all-rounder such as Dasun Shanaka to bat at 6. I think they have got lucky that they've got the adaptable Phil Salt, and in a sense an adaptable Rodman Powell as well. I think he could even bat 4 in a T20 side, but if he bats at 6, I think he wouldn't have to face too much of the spinners. And he can play that role where he can just start hitting or attacking the bowlers from the outset. So he's been a fantastic player ever since that century, and I'm sure he'll have a great season this time around as well. And they signed Riley Russo for 4.6 crores, and we've seen the kind of form he's been in the PSL. Even though he didn't have a great SA20, I didn't think he was out of form at all. I would put him in the same bracket as I put Mayank Agarwal when he didn't have a great IPL season the previous year, and then he's got an average 82 in the domestic seasons. And for Riley Russo, even though he didn't have a great SA20, I knew he would bounce back, and I didn't think he was out of form at all. And the PSL, a lot of the time, he scored huge runs at 200 strike rates and won his team games. Multan Sultans got to the final before losing out in that thrill of a game against the Lahore Qalandars. So he's been in great form, and if you're going to start an overseas batsman at 3, I would rather play Riley Russo over Mitchell Marsh simply because he is the more informed player. Mitchell Marsh, yes, against India played very well, but I feel Riley Russo has the skill set to play in this part of the world compared to Mitchell Marsh. And are you going to play Mitchell Marsh as an all-rounder? Because he hardly bowls. He's not bowled for a while, actually. I think he didn't bowl in the recent series against India. So in that case, you're playing a pure batsman at 3, who I think isn't as equipped to play, well-equipped to play against spin, especially when the ball turns away from him. And with the part of the world this tournament's being played in, and playing 7 games in Delhi as well, that will be vital. So if you were to play an overseas batsman, I would rather play Riley Russo, but I haven't got either of those two starting in my 11. And even though the absence of Rishabh Pant will be felt, I feel like they've got the overseas acquisitions and some good Indian acquisitions as well to stand up in his absence. Like I said, the young Yashdul, I back at number 3. And they've got Sarfraz Khan, who had a brilliant red ball season where he scored big runs whenever he's walked out to bat, and he's going to have to show the maturity in terms of being a T20 player now. And even though he's had brilliant red ball seasons, and with this one I think probably being his best by far, he hasn't quite shown his T20 credentials since RCB in 2015, where even then it was fleeting. And at first he started off, I think, with a 200 strike rate for the first few games. So he's a way better player now, and I think I back him to provide the goods at number 4. And now with the uncertainties in this side, and of course I'll start off by suggesting my playing 11. I've got David Warner and Prithvi Shaw opening the batting, no problems there. Yashdul at 3, Sarfraz Khan at 4, Phil Salt at 5, and Rodman Powell at 6. I think that is a good top 6. You've got Akshar Patel at 7, who's been in great form with both bat and ball. And if you're not considering the naming different 11s at the toss and the impact substitutions, then the batting does end there. You got Kuldeep Yadav at number 8, and I've got an asterisk next to Khalil Ahmed because of his injury situation. I don't know how his injury situation as of now, but I hope he does play. Or you've got a Kamlesh Nagarkoti who can bat a bit, but I think the batting does stop after number 7 of the side that I have suggested. Chetan Sakaria at number 10. I hope he gets a game this time around. Khalil Ahmed kept him out of the side last time, and I'm sure he'll get a game this time around. And Anik Nokia, hopefully, if he's fit. And in terms of the impact substitutions or naming different 11s, you could play either Ripal Patel or Lalit Yadav as the extra player. And you could bring in someone like a Kamlesh Nagarkoti maybe as an extra bowler. But I think something that they'll be looking for this season is assurance from their Indian batsmen. You've got Prithvi Shaw, who's improving in, I think, in terms of he's got a lot of talent, sure, and he's averaging 25, striking at 147 in his IPL career, and I'm sure the consistency will improve, and we'll see the best version of Prithvi Shaw this year than we have seen in the previous seasons of the IPL. You've got a Manish Pandey, who I think if the Yashdul experiment doesn't work out, he could slot at number 3. But you've got the Indian players apart from Prithvi Shaw, where you'd really be wanting them to have standout seasons. You don't know how they are going to do. And I would say that even if Rishabh Pant was in the side, he hasn't been that standout player in the IPL as we know he can be, despite the fact that he has still had decent seasons. So the Indian batsmen are going to have to deliver. I think the bowling does look good, and naming different 11s and the impact player will help them this season. So I believe David Warner is the right choice for captain in this side. And overall, even without Rishabh Pant there, I actually think this is quite a good side, and I expect them to qualify for the playoffs this season. If you enjoy this video, please like and subscribe. Please share it with your friends. Remember, this is my opinion. What's yours?